The Shadow of Doubt, introducing Norman Afzal Simons. Norman Afzal Simons, a name etched in the annals of South African crime, became synonymous with fear and uncertainty. His story is one that has haunted the collective memory of a nation, casting a long dark shadow over the urban landscapes of the 1990s. He was branded with the chilling moniker, the Station Strangler. This name alone evoked a sense of dread, a reminder of the terror that gripped communities. This title reflected the horrific nature of his alleged crimes and the areas where his victims were discovered. Train stations, once bustling with life, became scenes of unspeakable horror. Simon's case remains shrouded in controversy, leaving many questions unanswered. The courtroom became a battleground of conflicting testimonies and elusive truths. His story is a chilling reminder of the devastating impact of violence and the complexities of seeking justice. The streets, once filled with the vibrancy of daily life, now bore the weight of collective grief. Simon's journey from respected teacher to accused serial killer is a stark contrast. The transformation from a figure of trust to one of fear is a narrative that continues to baffle and intrigue. It is a tale that continues to spark debate and fuel speculation. Communities remain divided, with some convinced of his guilt and others questioning the evidence. His case, marked by both tragedy and lingering doubt, serves as a stark reminder of the fragility of life and the elusive nature of truth. The flickering candlelight at memorials symbolizes the enduring quest for answers and the hope for closure. A teacher's dark secret, early life and education. Born and raised in the outskirts of Cape Town, South Africa, Norman Afzal Simons led an unremarkable life in his early years. He grew up in a modest household, surrounded by the vibrant yet challenging environment of rural Cape Town. He was known as a bright and quiet child. His teachers often praised his inquisitive nature and his ability to grasp complex concepts with ease. Simons excelled in his studies, showing a particular aptitude for languages and literature. His passion for learning was evident from a young age, and he often spent hours immersed in books. This academic success led him to pursue a career in education. He attended a local university where he earned his teaching certificate, and his dedication to his studies did not go unnoticed. He became a primary school teacher, a profession that placed him in a position of trust and authority within his community. His role as an educator allowed him to shape young minds and contribute positively to society. Simons was well liked by his colleagues and students. His friendly demeanor and willingness to help others made him a beloved figure in the school. He was known for his gentle demeanor and dedication to his work. Students often sought his guidance, and he was always ready to lend a helping hand. However, beneath this veneer of normalcy, a darker side lurked. Despite his outward appearance, there were aspects of his personality that remained hidden from those around him. This hidden aspect of Simon's personality would later manifest in the most horrific way imaginable. The community that once held him in high regard would soon be shocked by the revelations of his dark deeds. The Mitchell's Plain murders, unveiling the Station Strangler's reign of terror. Between 1986 and 1994, the Mitchell's Plain community lived in the grip of terror. A string of gruesome murders shocked the community. Young boys, all from impoverished backgrounds, were disappearing with alarming regularity. Their bodies were later discovered in shallow graves near train stations, bearing the horrific marks of sexual assault and strangulation. The victims, ranging in age from 9 to 13, shared a similar profile. They were all small in stature and easily overpowered. The killer's modus operandi suggested a disturbing level of premeditation and a chilling lack of remorse. The community, living in fear, demanded justice for the slain children and an end to the reign of terror. The investigation, a race against time to stop the killings. The South African Police Service faced immense pressure to apprehend the perpetrator of these heinous crimes. The investigation, however, proved to be complex and challenging. The detectives had limited forensic evidence to work with. The murders occurred in impoverished areas, often lacking proper lighting and security. The lack of witnesses willing to come forward further hampered the investigation. Fear and distrust of the police, particularly within the marginalized community of Mitchell's Plain, created a wall of silence that proved difficult to penetrate. Despite these obstacles, the detectives pressed on, determined to bring the perpetrator to justice. Section 5. Trial and conviction. The weight of circumstantial evidence. This chapter delves into the complexities and nuances of a case that hinged on indirect proof and the interpretation of behaviors and testimonies. In 1995, the investigation took a dramatic turn. The police, after months of relentless pursuit, finally believed they had a breakthrough. Norman Afzal Simons, a name that had not surfaced in the initial stages of the inquiry, was arrested. His sudden emergence as a suspect shocked many. The arrest was based on circumstantial evidence, including witness testimonies placing Simons in the vicinity of several crime scenes. These testimonies painted a picture of a man who was always nearby when the crimes occurred, and behavioral patterns that raised suspicions. Experts analyzed his actions, looking for any signs that could link him to the heinous acts. The prosecution presented a case that relied heavily on psychological profiling. They argued that Simon's behavior fit the profile of the station strangler and the accused's alleged MO. They detailed how his methods and actions mirrored those of the perpetrator. The defense, however, vehemently maintained Simon's innocence, presenting counter-arguments and alternative explanations for his behavior, arguing that the prosecution's case lacked concrete physical evidence directly linking him to the murders. They emphasized the absence of DNA, fingerprints, or any tangible proof. Despite these counter-arguments, the court found Simons guilty of the murder of Elroy Van Rooyen, one of the station's strangler victims. The jury was convinced by the weight of the circumstantial evidence. The verdict brought a sense of closure to the families of the victims, who had long awaited justice. He was sentenced to life imprisonment. The case remains a poignant example of how circumstantial evidence can shape the outcome of a trial. Section 6. Scars of Trauma. The enduring impact on Mitchell's Plain. The murders attributed to the station strangler left an indelible mark on the Mitchell's Plain community. The crimes instilled a deep-seated fear, particularly among parents. The already marginalized community felt let down by the authorities, who were slow to respond to the crisis. The trauma of the station strangler era had a lasting impact on the community's psyche. It eroded trust in authority figures and left many struggling to cope with the emotional scars of the past. Even after Simon's conviction, the wounds inflicted on Mitchell's Plain continued to fester. Section 7. A community-divided parole and the resurgence of fear. In 2023, after serving 28 years of his life sentence, Norman Afzal Simons was granted parole, a decision that sent shockwaves through South Africa and reignited the debate surrounding his guilt or innocence. The parole board's decision was met with mixed reactions, highlighting the complexities of justice and the delicate balance between rehabilitation and
There was someone murdering young boys in the 80s and early 90s in Cape Town. Modus operandi was the same, it seems, in all cases. He would meet young boys between the ages of 8 and 14 at a railway station, and he'd ask them to do something. Carry a box for me and I'll give you £5. And then he would murder them, rape them, tie their hands up, mutilate them, and push their heads into the sand. 22 of them, over an 8-year period. So they searched for him for ages and ages, and finally they found this bloke, Afsal Norman Simons, who was a primary school teacher. And they originally thought he was responsible for all of these cases, but then they dropped the charge to only one murder of a young boy.
I've defended many people, many guilty people. 99% of my clients are guilty. Maybe 1% of them are innocent. And they're the worst type to represent, because there's so much at stake. If mistakes like this can happen, it's a hell of a burden.
Advocate Mike Stowe, good morning. Thank you for calling us. Lead prosecutor in the Station Strangler case.
Yeah, good morning to you, Keno. We start off the case with the investigating officer telling us that we've got the wrong guy. It was a very, very tough case. We had a confession. He made, but there was even doubt about that.
I met the child in a games shop. I molested him at the station. I also killed him. I cannot remember if I left the body at the station or near the station. I only want to say that it was very gruesome and it touched me terribly.
Why confess? If you didn't do it, why confess? I promise you, with murder and robbery, Belleville, you just have to know their reputation. You walk in there, they don't have to do much. It's just a little show that they put up. And you crap yourself. You will sign and say anything. Just to get out of there alive, because they make you believe that you're going to die in there.
There's a transcript of his interrogation which is quite harrowing to look through. It's got immortal lines like, "Kyk in die kolonel se oor," which I'm never sure whether that was the colonel but praat, or whether that was the guy making the observations.
Skoon my? Dankie.
There's a time when Johan left the gun here and said, bewys jou 'n guns en bewys ons 'n guns en skiet jouself vrek. En ek kan ek vroeger in gevat het en dit begin huil. En hy het begin klap, maar terwyl hy begin klap, het ek en selfde aan sê vir my, as ek die waarheid gaan praat nie, gaan hy vir my monoïsie bleach te neem en teen die hande daar hang tot ek vrek. I can remember what happened that day as well, because there was a party on top. Because I found the so-called strangle.
En gister daar met hulle gewere, die gewere gekak. Terwyl is dit met 'n lang ding, groot, air, whatever it was. En Kot het met sy pistool gesit en gekak, die ding gespeel met die goed, basically. En vrae en geskree en gevloek en whatever. En toe sê hulle my uittrek. En die klere daar en die gooi my spelklere.
Now, why do you don't need fear. Because you don't want it, because then you're influencing them. You don't want to influence him. You want him to confess his guilt because it's the right thing to do, not because he's scared of you. And I know the murder and robbery had at that stage a reputation that all their cases were run on confessions, and there was always allegations. I, however, was not involved and never saw things like that.
He couldn't have killed the child on the station in peak traffic and then carry his body for how many kilometers over his shoulder, or I don't know how they thought he would have ended up where he did. Didn't make any sense at all.
She drew up an identikit for the police, and if you recall well,
Yes.
There was this identikit of the station strangler in the newspapers with a large wig or large afro.
Yeah.
As fate happened on that particular day, Simons went off to join the reserve police, and we, in our possession, we had a photograph on that particular day taken of Simons with a short back and sight. There was no ways you could match the two.
According to her evidence, she only had a profile view of the so-called attacker. Now, how in God's name can you compile an identikit of a full frontal of somebody?
Simons was at a library in Claremont at 2:30. It was just about impossible for him to have got from Claremont to the station in Strand by 4 o'clock.
Does your gut tell you that Simons actually did it?
That we weren't asked to make such a choice.
As I said, I still believe that the right guy was sent to prison.
You know, Mike Stowe thought he could go to court, the court will acquit him, and everybody will just go home in peace. And then things went wrong. But I could never have imagined that so many holes in the state's case, and so many weaknesses would just be overlooked.